What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Screenheads TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. On this episode, I wanted to just discuss The Walking Dead Season 7 as a whole. Not really a review. I want to give the whole thing a rewatch before I actually give a review for the whole season. This is just more talking about where I think they went wrong and why I think maybe they made some of the choices that they made. Alright, so Season 7, Episode 1 was, in my opinion, one of the best episodes, probably in my top 5, maybe even in my top 3. I didn't sit down and break it down yet. I wanted to wait till Season 7 was over before I really gave it a lot of thought on what my top 3 episodes are, but it's definitely in my top 5. And all around, acting, everything was done really, really well. I mean, The Walking Dead always does acting well. Sometimes their writing is a little off. Their dialogue, to me, usually isn't off, but sometimes the way scenes play out or the way certain things happen may not always be the best writing. Now, Walking Dead is one of my favorite shows, so I'm not saying that the writing is bad. And usually, you only get 1, maybe 2 scenes, not even episodes, scenes where you're like, oh, I wish they played that out different, or I don't really like the writing on that. In my opinion, only 1 or 2 a season. Okay? This season, Season 7, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of writing that seemed lazy and forced instead of organic, natural flow to it. To me, The Walking Dead usually has a nice natural flow to the story, to the progression of things. And every now and again they stumble on that, but that's fine. No show is perfect. But this season, there was, I don't want to sit here and list them, but there was quite a bit of instances where you're like, oh, why did they make that decision? Or why did they play that out like that? I mean, there was a bunch of them. After episode 1, I think almost every episode had 1 or 2 cases of what you might call lazy or bad writing. Not in the dialogue so much. If I think really hard, I might be able to pick a couple of pieces of dialogue out that I didn't really like. But I don't like to nitpick any show, especially not my favorite show. So I definitely don't want to do that. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have any memory of bad dialogue. Just the way a couple of scenes played out. Like the way the Richard thing played out. How Morgan, just an example. Morgan starts to strangle, spoiler alert, strangle Richard, and nobody even attempts to stop him. Somebody should have tried to grab him, and Morgan had such a grip they couldn't get him off. Or he fights back. Or the saviors stop them from pulling Morgan off. All of that works better than everyone just standing there and watching Morgan kill one of their friends. Somebody that they've survived with, lived with, a good fighter, a valued member to the kingdom. Even if he was kind of going on his own, to fight back, he had good intentions and he wasn't, really hurting anybody. He didn't deserve to die in the eyes of the kingdomers. So why wouldn't you try to stop it? I just gave you 3 quick examples of how you could have done it to where they tried to stop it. Now, that's just one example of lazy writing. Just to get something to play out the way they want, they make people act, or they make people don't act on things or differently to things than they normally would. And that's terrible. It takes you out of character when someone who's as valiant as Ezekiel seems to be doesn't try and stop one of his own men from getting killed from a new outsider, whether you like him or not, whether he's your friend or not. He's killing one of your people, and you don't even attempt to stop it. All you had to do, like I said, was have his grip be on that crazy clear shit, and they can't get him off, or you have the saviors shut it down and see how it plays out, or you have Morgan fight back. The best bet to me would have been to have them try to pull him off. And they can't because Morgan's got the grip, and then the saviors shut it down and they let Morgan kill Richard. So just stuff like that was sprinkled out throughout the whole entire season that was just terrible. You know, like they had them bring the pool table out in the middle of the street, which was kind of stupid, just so they can have Negan kill Spencer in front of everybody that way with the comic scene of the pool table. When you could have done it differently, you could have had them play pool and then not have him cut his guts right there. Have them walk out with his hand on his shoulder or something out of the garage, blah, 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 talking to him, and then you have him fucking do it in front of everybody. Or it doesn't have to be in front of everybody. I don't think in the comic it was. I think they were kind of off to the side, if I'm right. Maybe only 1 or 2 people witnessed it. I don't remember. It's been a while since I read it. But my point is there's other ways they could have played a lot of these scenes out. And the way they did it is puzzling to me. It makes me think, well, was there a reason why you played it out that way? Did something happen we don't know about in the writer's room with the producers, with AMC? So, you know, something similar to the toned down violence, which I'll get to in a minute. I don't know. But when it happens once or twice a season, that's okay. When it happens once or twice an episode or once or twice every other episode, it becomes a problem because now you're falling into, I've been saying this a lot lately and I'm going to continue it. I'm sorry, but as long as I have these feelings, this is my opinion. That it feels like a network show. It feels like an NBC or an ABC show, CW, one of those shows where they might be fine for most audiences, some audiences. But to me, they're written poorly, to be honest. They're acted poorly sometimes, you know, and I can't get into those shows because I don't believe them. The Walking Dead is one of those shows where it's created a world where you believe it. You believe the world, you believe what's going on. Now that brings me to my next point. The toned down violence is going to hurt this show in the long run. Look, I understand if they were getting shit from the executives, if they were getting shit from fans, if they were getting shit from just random parents. I don't know exactly what was going on, and I get it, okay? But you're going to lose your adult fans or your hardcore fans or the people that stick by your show hardcore if you keep taking it out because it takes us out of the show because we're not used to it. We're used to 6 seasons of a zombie show, a horror show, what it should be, an adult action show, what it should be, bloody and violent and gory. It's not made for children. So I don't know if they're doing this to try and sell toys and all, or if it's about the complaints or the advertisements. I don't know, but it's going to hurt the show in the long run. So I doubt anybody that's of note at AMC is going to watch this video. But if you are, I'm telling you, cutting the violence is going to hurt you in a bad way. Because not only does it make it feel like a different show than the first 6 seasons, but now it makes it feel like a network show, which a lot of people tune into AMC, FX, those types of channels because they don't want to pay for HBO and Showtime, but they don't like network TV. Because these channels give you a good medium. They give you adult content on a channel with commercials, which ABC, NBC, I don't care what your subject matter is. Whatever it is, they play it out like everything is TV 14. And adults don't want to watch that shit. Why do you think HBO shows took off? Because they took risks and they, excuse me, they made TV shows that were made for adults. And I understand it's a different medium with paid cable, but... Alright, so the toned down violence, that's another big problem. Now the pacing. I get the slow pacing, and I've defended it all season, basically because I thought they were going to pay it off in episode 16, the finale, and they really didn't. I mean, we got a tiny bit of payoff, but it definitely wasn't worth, the 14 episodes in between 1 and 16 of the slow pace. It wasn't worth it, what they gave us for a finale, at all. And I get the slow pacing. Like I said, I've defended it, and I still do, to a point. Adding in the finale, it's hard to defend the way they handled the rest of the season, but I can still defend it because it's about story and character. They're introducing you to all these communities and all these people, and the storyline has to weave and tie through all of it to make it work and make it make sense and make you care about the characters and make you want to see the war play out and want to see this. The first half needed to be Rick and most of the group broken and trying to figure out how to live with Negan, while the second half needed to be the opposite of that. Rick and them saying, well, we're not going to put up with this shit, and we're going to stand up to them, and we're going to fight and do what we got to do. All of that needed to be told, okay? But this is a zombie show, which means you have an endless supply of action. You don't need human-on-human violence. You can have Walker problems come in while they're figuring it all out. And that's what it should have been. The obstacles to get the guns should have been more Walker-centric. Or, there should have been more of that. More Walker problems. That way, you could have not done the human-on-human violence, because next season is going to be all war, all our group versus their groups and all that, right? So this season, you could have still had zombies and made them scary again, right? I understand. This is what they try and do. Take the zombies out for a little while to make them scary again and then insert them back in. They've done it before, not to this extreme, but they've done it before to where some seasons had less walkers in it so that they could take away from the walker being the villain and what's scary, because when you get too much of it, it's no longer scary, right? So, but you can still have it there and give us the action with it and do it in a way that is either scary or tense. It doesn't have to be scary, but it could be tense moments. All right, Rick and Michonne are going to die at the hands of walkers right now, but that doesn't mean it can't be a tense moment. And the times they did give us this action, it was done poorly. The episodes that did have the action and the tension, other than 7-1, were done in ways that felt like a B movie. That episode with Rick and Michonne in the carnival, the episode was good. It was okay. I liked it. The way they had the relationship with Rick and Michonne, that was great. But the action part of it, it was exciting at the time because it was the only action we got all season. But, it falls flat on a rewatch, and the action isn't really that good, and there isn't really that tension and the suspense, and it just doesn't hold up after watching the entire season. So, look, they could have done a lot of things different. All they had to do was weave in a throwaway human group if you wanted to, but I don't think they had to go there. They could have just weaved in more Walker stuff, and it would have made the season more exciting. So where you had all the episodes structured the same, just with action in them, with something happening, and it didn't have to be versus the Saviors, even when they did have it. Like, you could have had Negan and the Saviors kill a whole shit bunch of walkers coming up to Alexandria that were following them or something, instead of having Negan hit one once, and then hit one once on the way out. You know what I mean? You could have had a whole little scenes there where a bunch of Saviors were putting in work. Because we haven't seen the Saviors really put in any work other than, intimidating people. So it would have been nice if this season they didn't focus on our group killing walkers. Maybe you focused more on the Saviors killing walkers and still had some of our group, because like I said, you needed action throughout. And there wasn't. And all you had to do was that. And it makes me think, well, the toned down violence. That they took things out. Or they added in more dialogue scenes that maybe they would have cut and would have been, like extra scenes on the DVD or something. I don't know, but it didn't feel like The Walking Dead this season. The Walking Dead is always, even the seasons that aren't the best, they're always exciting. There's always action. There's always stuff that grip you, that pull you into the story. And this season felt like it didn't have enough of that. I'm not going to say it didn't have any, but it didn't have enough, which makes it not The Walking Dead. So I hope that these aren't changes that are happening for the future of the show. With the toned down violence, the less walkers, the action scenes that feel like there was no time put into them, the editing that feels like it's cut to shit, and they're just hoping to rely on that stuff ramping up Blu-ray sales. I hope that's not what's happening, but I have a bad feeling that that's what's happening. That they're doing these things, hoping to sell Blu-rays, hoping to sell more toys, and hoping to get the younger audience in. So on network, they're going to cut everything and hope that you buy the Blu-ray to get the real version of it. I really hope not. But this season felt like there was something missing. It didn't feel like The Walking Dead. And what this show should feel like now, this season should have started to feel like Game of Thrones with zombies. Or modern day Game of Thrones with zombies. And that's how it should feel going forward. Because that's how the comic feels. Separate communities. It has a medieval vibe in the way they travel between communities and the way they trade with each other. It has a vibe of a Game of Thrones. And if they handle it, they take notes and handle it the way Game of Thrones does. You can get a ton of story with action in almost every episode. Yes, Game of Thrones has a full hour almost. They use like 55 minutes, 53 minutes, 57 minutes, right? Walking Dead only has 43, 45 minutes. And I get that's a long time. But lately they've been doing a lot of extended episodes, and I know AMC will allow them to do as many extended episodes as possible, so you can always get that more, and you should always fill that in with action or dialogue, whatever you need in that episode, right? But take a note from Walking Dead, an adult drama that mostly adults watch. Okay? They have the action, they have the character stuff, they have the story stuff, they still have the blood, the violence, the sex, the cursing, stuff that AMC can't even have, and that's fine. But take note from that show, and I don't mean copy it, but take note, because now you have a huge cast with tons of characters, tons of locations, and tons of shit that's about to go on. So treat it like Game of Thrones, and don't just give us one episode here and a whole episode here. Give us little bits of all corners of the world in each episode, or at least focus on multiple storylines in one episode, and you'll keep your fans gripped. If you keep adding in action, even if it's little moments of it, the fans, us, we will appreciate it. We will, it will make us want to come back for more and want to continue to tell all our friends to watch the show and to continue to make videos and to talk about it all the time. Where you're going with the show is down a bad road, where everyone is only going to be talking about it to say bad things, to shit on it, and to say, remember how good it used to be. And you don't want that, AMC. If you want Walking Dead to stick around, you got to keep it fresh. And I like the idea of them things changing up in season 7. Now it's going to be like Game of Thrones. Now it's going to be tons of communities and tons of storylines going on. But you're not doing that. You're not taking advantage of that. The March of War storyline was a perfect time for you to do that. And you didn't. You gave us too many bottle episodes, too many episodes focused on one or two characters instead of fleshing out the world better. And I hope that going forward, you're going to take notes from a show like Game of Thrones that weaves in multiple storylines, tons of action, tons of story, plus they add in history and backstory, and plus they do sex and violence that you can't do, but it takes up time. So if they can do all of this stuff in their hour, you can do all of this stuff in the 45 minutes to an hour that you get, depending on whether it's a 90-minute episode or not. All right, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about this, but, I just got to get the stuff off my chest. I love this show, and it hurts me when they make these silly mistakes that shouldn't be made. An episode of the show this caliber, with the talent you have, should never feel like lazy. It should never feel thrown together. It should never feel chopped up and edited to hell to where all the good stuff that you want to see is taken out. It feels like I'm watching a rated R movie that comes on regular TV with commercials where they edit it. That's what I feel like I'm watching, which is nowhere near as enjoyable as watching the original. And when you see that with a rated R movie, you've seen the original. So you've seen it how it's supposed to be already. Right? So you don't mind it as much when they edit it on TV. But when it's the first time you're seeing these episodes, it's not going to ramp up DVD, Blu-ray sales. It's going to kill them. Because who's going to want to watch the episodes again? They're going to say, I don't care if the blood and violence is there. The fucking shit was boring. All I'm saying is don't start making these changes. I hope it was a season 7 thing. And I hope going forward, you're going to get back to Walking Dead and what it's all about. And I don't mean it's all about blood, guts, and violence. It's an adult show made for adults with adult themes. And that's how it should feel. and it's on a semi-cable network. That's how it should feel. It shouldn't feel like a TV 14 show that's on NBC or ABC. That's what I'm saying. So that's it for my rant. 20 minutes is definitely long enough. Sound off down below. Thank you for watching the video. And you guys have a great day. And I will see you next. Oh, more Walking Dead videos to come. So keep your eye out. I will see you next time. That was a terrible outro. But whatever. I need to work on it, I guess.